Good morning, everyone. This is Charalambos Pissouros, Senior Analyst at IronFX, bringing you the morning comment for the 3rd of March. Today, investors will lock their gaze on the US for two speeches by the Fed's top policymakers, Chair Janet Yellen and Vice Chairman Stanley Fischer. This will be the last time we hear from these officials ahead of the March meeting, and as such their remarks will be closely watched for any hints on whether a March hike is as likely as market pricing currently suggests. If Yellen's and Fischer's comments are equally optimistic as those of their colleagues, we could see the probability for a March hike increase further, something that could add more fuel to the latest dollar rally, at least ahead of next week's employment report. Eurodollar slid yesterday and hit the key support territory of 105 before rebounding somewhat. In our view, investors are likely to settle near that zone and wait for Yellen and Fischer. If these two elite policymakers sound hawkish as well, then we may see a dip below 105, which could open the way for our next support barrier of 104.50, defined by the low of the 11th of January. On the other hand, a more moderate tone from these key officials could suggest that the FOMC can be patient for now and pour cold water on the idea of March action. Something like that could lead to a notable downside correction in the dollar. In this case, Eurodollar could rebound further from near the 105 hurdle and could initially aim for the resistance of 105.70. A possible break above that territory is likely to set the stage for more upside extensions, perhaps towards the 106.30 area, marked by the peaks of the 27th and 28th of February. Having outlined the scenarios, we maintain our view that June is still a more likely candidate than March for the next rate hike. We think that the greater than 50% probability for a March hike is overly optimistic, mainly because there has not been a phenomenal change in the economic outlook in the aftermath of the February meeting to justify such a shift in Fed rhetoric. Let's not forget that the minutes of that meeting showed many officials held a cautious stance, judging that the Fed would have ample time to respond if inflation emerges. Since then, data showed that wage growth slowed in January, while the core PCE price index for the same month failed to accelerate for the third consecutive time, generating doubts as to whether underlying inflationary pressures have really begun to pick up. In order to reassess our view, we would like to see hawkish signals from both Yellen and Fischer, as well as a rebound in the average hourly earnings rate for February next week. As for the rest of today's highlights, during the European Day we get the final services PMIs for February from the European nations that we got the manufacturing data on Wednesday and the Eurozone as a whole. In the UK, the services PMI for February is due to be released. The forecast is for the index to have declined somewhat. A modest decline could signal that growth in the UK's largest sector is slowing down and may thereby hurt the pound somewhat. Sterling yen edged south yesterday after it hit resistance at 140.70 and the prior upside support line taken from the low of the 16th of January. This, combined with the fact that the rate remains below the downside resistance line drawn from the peak of the 15th of December, keep the short-term outlook somewhat negative. And disappointment in the services PMI today could push the rate below the 139.70 support, something that could pave the way for our next obstacle of 138.80, marked by the low of the 28th of February. With regards to the US economic data, we get the ISM non-manufacturing PMI for February. The forecast is for the index to have remained unchanged at a relatively elevated level. However, the greenback's near-term direction is likely to be dictated by Yellen's and Fischer's comments later during the day. Besides Chair Yellen and Vice Chairman Fischer, we have one more Fed speaker on today's agenda, Dallas Fed President Robert Kaplan. For more information, please read the full comment on IronFX.com or download our app and get all the information you need to trade. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or circle us on Google Plus to get more trading ideas. This is Charalambos Pissouros. Senior Analyst at IronFX, wishing you solid trading.